Welcome to Taxonomy Tuesday. My name is Chris. I'll be hosting this evening. This is where we do a show and tell style to help each other identify the mushrooms of the day. And we have a couple people that already emailed in, which you can still do. And if there's anybody who would like to start us off from their own computer, that would be good as well.
I have a bunch of stuff, but that I'll share from my computer. But if anyone else wants to go first, I can go first, whatever we want to do.
Take it away, Brandon.
All right, cool. Maybe I spoke too soon. I don't have anything open. Sorry. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. How do I change this? Because I want to go back quite a ways. I went out today and found just so many things. I think I uploaded 24 observations today just from stuff I found. But I found this yesterday.
Brendan, where are you looking right now? What, New Jersey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's been pretty good. So I put these up as Inocybe, which you kind of get the idea from the Rimos cap here. It's always a good place to start when you see that is one of these Inocybe type things. Pretty interesting. The gills are kind of gray, grayish, whitish gray, even on the mature one. But these spores are something else.
Nice.
I mean, nodulos, yes, but I would almost call these stellate. And it was even hard to focus on all the nodules. So like this right here in the center, that's a nodule pointed right at you.
You know, without photo stacking, this is about as good as it gets. That's a really good photo, and the other one was as well.
Right.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think without photo stacking, because I'm focused on the profile of the thing, like this one right here, right? But all of these are I could have gotten. I saw them in focus, but then you lose the profile. So yeah, I got to look into that.
Yeah, that's a really good picture of them.
Thank you. Yeah, I described like this one here. It had an everlasting gobstopper look. If anyone knows that reference.
2 weeks in a row, you got good references like that.
I
And then this
agree.
is-
I would call it Inocybe family.
Yeah, this looks like genus Inocybe because it looks like we're going to see some metuloids coming up here.
Yes. If by metuloids you just mean thick-walled cystidia, right?
Thick-walled cystidia, right? And
Okay.
usually on the other genera in the Inocybaceae, like Pseudosperma, Inosperma, you get these like palisades of clavate or spheropendiculate, whatever, chylocystidia, but you don't get these guys. So I believe it's only the true Inocybees, as per the modern definition of Inocybe. The Methane definition.
Mhm.
So it looks like you've got a real Inocybe here, and I think also the nodulus or stellate spores are another indication of genus Inocybe.
Yeah, I think that's my current understanding as well. But I'll be honest, this is the first Inocybaceae I really tucked into this season, so I gotta go back to Matheny's work and kind of review it a little bit. But yeah, that's why I put it in Inocybe eventually. And
Yeah, I would just go ahead and call this Inocybe. Now, getting the species is another story, but sometimes you get lucky. There's some weird little trait.
Smoking gun, right?
Some smoking gun, this weird shape in one of the cystidia or something like that.
And you can see the cystidia pretty much uniformly have this. I called it kind of a hooked, multiple hooks coming off the apex.
It looks like it's got a hat on or something.
Like a little,
like a wig or something.
Yeah, like a toupee.
Toupee. Yeah.
All right, cool. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention on this one, so where my cursor is here, that's the Chyloscystidia, so that's the gill edge. And this is one gill, and this has been something.
I'm sorry, where's the gill edge?
This line, so the top, right?
Oh, because those all look like Pleurocystidia up there.
So that's the edge.
Oh, okay.
The Pleurocystidia, this is one gill that I smashed. I just took a gill out and smashed it until it split. So I think that means that this down here is Pleurocystidia. All these down here, and they're out of focus, obviously. Because
they look the same as the others, though, even though you can't see them as well.
Yep. So this I'm calling a Pleurocystidia. These I'm calling Chyloscystidia, and yes, that was the only thing I was getting at is they look pretty much the same, but they're both present and relatively abundant. All right, cool. I don't want to take up too much time.
Nice work.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, getting to species on that, I don't know. Hopefully, I'll go. I just did the work on that maybe an hour ago, so I'll go to Myco Quebec. They have a pretty good collection of species in Inocybe proper, so I'll check out what they have. And then I love this mushroom. This is Xylaria oxyacanthae, and it specifically, this isn't a great observation, so I'll kind of be brief because I've found it here before, and I'm always looking for it to come back. So this is growing on hickory shells, hickory nut shells. And it was pretty rainy, and again, not a great observation. I'll probably update it now that
Is it the shells or the husks?
What's the difference between a shell and a husk?
The husk is the outer coating that's it's like this thing that starts out green, and once it decays it turns black. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like radially divided into like pieces of pie, sort of. You can peel them off once the husk is mature. The shell is the actual really hard thing that you would break with a nutcracker to get the meat out of the nut.
So it's the really hard thing. It's the really hard woody thing.
Oh, it's the shell. Oh,
yes,
interesting.
It's the shell. Well, actually, let's answer this question in my next observation, because the next observation is something that is also growing on the same substrate. So, and it's a little better. We can see it better. But anyway, this is Xylaria oxyacanthae. At least a couple hundred of them in under 3 hickory trees in a very small area. So they're just coming up like wild. It's just you see these little white matchsticks coming up, and they're, like I said, there's hundreds of them. So really cool. One of my favorite.
Do you know what kind of hickory tree?
It's either mocker nut. I think it's mocker nut, or
right. Not shagbark then.
Not shagbark.
Yeah, because I've got shagbark hickories on our property. We have a really old growth one. We have several mature ones, and I've never seen this Xylaria.
All right, so I think I have a good photo. So that thing, the big woody hickory shell, I guess, right?
So that looks more like a husk to me.
Oh gosh.
I know. The nut and the husk when they're fresher, they have like you could tell one goes inside the other.
And well, I know what the nut. I know what the nut is. I know that part. That's the very inner part that is the consistency of a nut.
The the nut's not gonna like wrinkle up like this though.
Right. Yeah. No, this is it was very much woody.
But the Xylaria was on the nut, or no?
I think it was on either the husk or the shell, and I'm not entirely sure of the difference between the two, especially at this. That thing was buried
Okay.
an inch, so it's
Yeah, it
tough.
looks like just dirt. Yeah.
It looks like just dirt.
Yes.
So this is the Mycena now. This one.
Well, I'm calling this Mycena.
Yeah, Mycena crocea is usually either bright yellow or white.
Yep.
Yeah, and that grows on walnuts, right? Or
It grows on hickory nuts also, but
oh,
it's called the walnut Mycena because that's apparently what it's most commonly found on. But I have found that species on hickory nuts on our property. And I think they come right out of the nut, you know.
I love that mushroom. It's so pretty.
Yeah, it is nice.
Yeah, and I don't know what this thing is. I should have led with. I was just trying to talk about the substrate when I first pulled it up. I don't know what this thing is.
Did you get any spores from them or anything?
I have it collected. I haven't tucked into it yet. So I'm gonna.
It looks like this is probably white spored, so maybe it is some sort of Mycena. But if the spores have any kind of pigment like yellowish, then there is a flammulaster species that grows on husks of hickory nuts that I find. Well, I didn't find it this year because it was actually on the neighbor's property. And the neighbor dumped a big bunch of gravel right on the spot where it used to grow. So that might be.
And it's also not, brightly colored. It's kind of.
It's kind of drab.
Yeah.
But this doesn't look like it though. No, this is not it. The flammulaster has, like other flammulasters, it has the marginal sort of flaps, the little deposits, the triangles hanging off the edge of the cap. So this doesn't look like that. This might be like a Colybiopsis or something like that.
Yeah, I mean it's very small. The largest cap, which is the one that I'm holding down here, was about 1 centimeter.
So I have to review some of the Mycena, like Mycena crocea, to see what kind of spores they have. But the Colybiopsis, they have spores like gymnopus spores that are just like these really small pip-shaped or lacrimoid things. They have like a big sublateral apiculus, that makes it look like a teardrop. But there might be some Mycena that have spores like that too. I'm not sure. I'd have to review that. But interesting find, whatever this is.
Yeah, and I should have. I have more pictures. I uploaded so many things. I just kind of did it pretty quickly. This was, demonstratable, right? There were a lot of these things, and every single one was coming off of husk shell, one of those big hard hickory substrates. So it wasn't just a random thing growing on that substrate. It was demonstrable. That's what this thing grows on.
Oh, so there was like a consistent association of this mushroom with this this substrate.
When I found them, they weren't on a twig. They weren't on some litter or just leaves. Every single time you could find the either shell or husk. Which now I have to learn that.
I just brought one up that I could show real quick. Oh.
Yeah, when I'm done sharing, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So we don't have to go back and forth.
Yeah, I just Googled hickory nut and husk.
Nice. Why can't I go up anymore? Well, since we're stuck and I can't go up anymore right now, let's look at this slime mold that I found today. Maybe is Virginia here? I didn't check the chat.
She is here, and she was wondering if that shell looks like black walnut. But I don't know if she's muted or not.
I just unmuted.
There you go.
Yeah. I usually need more details when I'm looking at slime molds. I don't like to say just from, a general photo, or have more of a close-up.
Those are cool.
So what I was looking for, when I found it, I thought it was Metatrichia vesparia, but
I don't see any little caps, and maybe it's not mature enough. Okay, now what's that picture?
It's blurry.
I see that's close up. I see that's a close up of a different, brown, not as dark.
It's releasing some of the spores over here.
Yeah, spores. It doesn't. Metatrichia vesparia is usually dark and it has bright orange spores.
Yeah, and I found this one today, so I didn't do too much work. Oh, I thought I added. Wait, hold on, real quick. I definitely added because I found a little stalk on the thing.
I mean, it could be Metatrichia, but it might need to be a little more mature.
All right, cool.
Oh, yeah.
I just realized because I uploaded the newest photo on my phone and it didn't update on my phone, so I wonder if now it will. Yeah, there we go. So not the best photo, obviously.
No.
Okay, but you can make out a stem anyway, so it's useful at least.
Yeah, right. And then I like to see, what's inside of it before I give a guess of what it is.
Not even a guess. Okay. Yeah, like I said, I collected it, so I'll do the work. I found it today, but I thought it was neat.
Very cool.
It is, yeah.
And then Igor, are you here? Yes, I heard you earlier.
Yeah, I'm here.
So I also found this today, also collected, and I'll do some work on it eventually. It's probably Megacollybia rodmanii, but in the back of my head, something just seemed off about it, especially, the gestalt, especially, for as kind of planed out as the cap is, for as long as and sturdy as the stipe is, it just seems like Megacollybia rodmanii would be a lot larger at this stage of development. So I was wondering,
did you smell it?
Species. Say it again.
Did you smell it?
No, but I can. I have it in in the next room.
Yeah, you should.
All right. Give me one moment. And while I'm doing that, look at the cool margin.
That is nice.
This sushi staple in Los Angeles, subbing in
One thing you can check for Megacollybia rodmanii is if the stipe can be torn apart radially.
Yeah,
I think that's what this is.
we
They come in all shapes and sizes.
We sequenced a strange collection of Megacollybia from Stokes. They had marginate gills, clearly like, dark edges. And it turned out to be Rodmanii, and I bet it was something else.
Now, there used to be a name for the ones with marginate gills. It might have been like marginata or something like that, but that's probably
or murina or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, that probably is not a real species.
No, not according to DNA.
Right. Yeah, according to your example. So I'm guessing it's not a real
But
species.
it wasn't that big. It had a long stem and smallish cap. It was not like the typical appearance of Rodmania, which is more squat and larger in size.
Yeah, usually, but I see hundreds of these every year, and honestly, there is no typical size and shape.
They're variable.
They're just really variable.
So any odor?
Not a good one.
Not a good one. Or
Yeah.
maybe after it.
It's been sitting on a spore print for a minute.
Exactly. So
they start to stink before too long.
Yeah. I went for a quick walk with Nina and John at FPP this weekend. My reason for visiting was different, so I didn't stay with them for too long. But we found in the usual spot a small Megacollybia, and we've sequenced the species before from that spot, I think, in the past, and it's Texensis. It has an odor of a minty toothpaste, very floral.
That's the thing that I was trying to remember. I did smell it in. I just didn't note anything because I couldn't remember what that smoking gun was for Texensis, because that's what I was thinking when I found it. It's like there was that small thing we found one time. You called it Texensis, and
I call it Texensis, yeah. But it's interesting that odor is not in a description of the holotype. But in my experience, that's what it smells like, and it's small in size. But it just looks like a genuine Megacollybia with its fibrous grayish cap and white stem and white gills. So I don't, your woods are not exactly the Pine Barrens. It's again at the interface of the two coastal plains. So chances are, you do have Megacollybia rodmania as opposed to Texensis, because there's no, to my knowledge, there's no rodmania in the Pine Barrens.
Oh yeah, yeah, and like I said, I know rodmania pretty well. Until you get something like that, it's like that's very small cap, and not as thick gills, right? Because rodmania, I'm used to having those like monster wide gills, wide, not wide. They're like a centimeter or more. The blades, you know what I mean?
Right. So you have to go to that paper by Elsfelinga from 2007, I think, that has all the species of Megacollybia. And I think it has DNA. I mean, they have some trees in that paper, so maybe there could be some kind of distinction in size between the spores, of those two species, and you can nail it down just from there.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right. And just real quick, you got the husk and then the nut.
Right. I know the difference between a husk and a nut, but what's the difference between a husk and a shell?
The shell is part of the nut.
This
Since 2006.
the shell is the nut that is not the nut meat. I don't know if you can see this one.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, that's
In
right.
here will be the nut meat, and out here the nut, the half a nut is the shell.
Starts at S6.
And those are the things that get okay.
Yeah, this one still has the meat in it. Yeah, you see that
So it's
there.
like a double layer. You've got the nut, and then you've got the shell, and then you've got the husk.
Right. Working inside out.
So,
Okay.
and you can see the size difference too, with especially with the hickories. There's the husk is thick on these things.
Yes. I think
Yeah, some hickory nuts have very thin husks. I think maybe pig nut. I'm not sure.
so. The shell's thicker than the husk.
No.
No, on pig, the one that has the thin husk, the shell and the husk are about the same thickness, but the shells can be really hard to break on hickory nuts. They're very substantial. The husks usually break apart. You can peel them away, when the whole thing is mature.
So does anybody else want to share from their computer?
I've got a couple I can share.
Go for it.
I don't share often, so we'll see how difficult this is. All right. Just a second here.
Quickly, I think those are, since they're drupes, they're not nuts. So the seed is the inside, and then it's the endocarp and the mesocarp, and oh crap, I can't forget the outer pithy part on it, like a peach. So
Huh.
So they're not even nuts.
they're not nuts. Acorns are nuts. Hazelnuts are nuts. They're like a peach, or walnuts are not nuts. Walnuts are drupes. Hickory nuts are drupes.
Cool, thanks. That's interesting.
So it's I think it's the mesocarp is the inner shell around the seed, and then it's the endocarp, and I forget the name of the outer part, and I might be wrong, so don't count on me. So
Nice.
Okay.
okay, I'll shut up now.
Right. So I've only found a couple things lately because I don't have much time outside of work, but I found some of these on my lunch break at work and thought I would give it a go. So this had rained recently. This is from just over a week ago, and I'm in Vineland, New Jersey. So Cumberland County. And these are growing near pine and oak. I'm on like the cusp of the pine barrens, so I get a lot of that type deal here with the sandy soil. Oh, hang on, this is in the way and I can't move. There we go. My best guess with these was something like Amanita, russuloides. The striations on the cap. Obviously, this isn't mature enough to have flattened out. I'm also aware that's a complex and it might not be that. I don't know. I wanted some input and see what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, this is one of the things that's probably been called russuloides. I'm not sure anybody knows what russuloides is, but it is a species in section Amanita, and this is also something in section Amanita. Notice the inverted funnel annulus that sort of coincides with Phylloporus or other species in series Pantherinae. So there's a species that comes up early around here under pine. It's usually 2 or 3 needle pines that I had sequenced, and I think it's been given the coded name New York 06 or something like that.
08.
08. Okay. Yeah. So this could be that. It's got a weak annulus.
Mhm.
Yellow, grows under pine. It comes out early.
Yeah, but this is not praecox.
No, that supposedly only comes out under hemlock, but this doesn't really look like praecox. It looks a little bit like praecox. Praecox and this New York 08 thing have been confused in the past.
Well, this whole part of that section is confusing, you know, with I think russuloides doesn't have a ring, and Xylaria volva also comes, you know, in that group. So it is a confusing array of these yellow capped.
You know what? I think that Peck's original description of russuloides says that there's a weak partial veil. I think.
Okay. Well, this looks more robust than weak, but yeah, it's not impressive. It's not like a skirt-like thing. But the Lasiosphaeria doesn't have an impressive ring either. It's inverted, but it's sort of short. The bulb structure is a little bit messy here.
Yeah.
There's no distinct color, but it's clearly not muscaria or Chrysobolema.
No, it wasn't.
It's probably not a panther either, because it doesn't have the collar on top of the bulb. Whatever, I don't know. Does that series Pantherinae, is that supported by genetics? That group?
I don't know, because you know the species concepts are confused, so you have a mismatch. You know, you're putting things that are not in Pantherinae, but you know they could check out. I mean, if you have a type collection that is basically forms your series or whatever subsection Pantherinae, that kind of locks it in, and then you're going to put all the relatives of that into that section.
Yeah, you know what? I once sent for sequencing a mushroom that to me was like a poster boy mushroom for either Phylloporus or subphylloporus, which are very, very similar to one another. And it came back as multisquamosa. So, I mean, that kind of suggests there might be, you know, genetic support.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen that name interchangeably used, and there's more than one multisquamosa, and maybe even more than one Phylloporus in the notation of Steve Russell when he sequenced these things.
Right. Yep. But it does sort of indicate that that the group might actually be, the distinction as a group might be supported by genetics.
I saw on the smaller one there seemed to be a bit of remnants on the top. I mean, would there normally be more on these, but it had just rained, Emily said?
From what it had just rained. From what I'd seen looking up, these kind of have sparse remnants anyway. Like they don't get a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think this is Xylaria volva because that one loses the ring very quickly, and or maybe it's not there to begin with, so it's probably not that. Or whatever we call Xylaria volva that matches the type collection or the collections from Colombia that are in GenBank that are certainly that species. So yeah, you know, you see that ring it's rather prominent. The other fruiting body should have lost it by now, you know. So yeah, we have to we have to get more of these things sequenced. You just have to do it by brute force.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So this was also South Jersey.
Yeah. So that was South Jersey. Yeah.
And pine only, no oaks, huh?
No, pine and oak. in
Pine
this
oak,
area.
yeah.
Yeah, pine oak, and then far out a little bit of further where's some tulip poplar.
Yeah, but again, it's sort of in the transition between the two coastal plains because I don't see these things in the heart of the Pine Barrens, like Wharton State Forest or FP. These things are not there.
Yeah, I'm about half an hour from there, so just on the. All right, and then I found these today.
No name.
Oh wow!
But these ones, that's a very handsome picture.
Aren't they nice?
Yeah, they're nice. They're cute.
And I love this one at the bottom. You can really see the. Do you still call it striations on the veil?
No, they are the imprints of the gills.
Okay. Well, I know that's what they are. I just wasn't sure what you call them.
That striations are referred to the thinning of the cap tissue, such that the bases of the gills show up on the skin of the cap.
Yeah, you probably just call these grooves.
Yeah, these are just impressions in the soft tissue of the underside of the ring from the gill edges. Yeah, this is how they separate. That's why Amanitas don't have Calvatia.
Is this maybe? This looks like one of the rubescent taxa.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
this is one of the rubescent taxa.
Yeah.
Whether this is species 2-5 of amerirubescens or whether this is the one that Rod Tallis gave provisional names to, I don't know. I mean, I think that feature, that yellow ring, is not solidly linked to a single species. I think it happens in at least 2 species. I cannot tell these apart in the field. I just can't. They're tough. You have to do sequencing.
All right.
Good
I
photo.
love
Good
that.
photos, Emily.
Yeah, it's like staged.
Did you get a new camera or something?
I got a new phone.
Yeah, there you go.
There it is.
These are really, really good photos.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see this being a prize winner at the photo contest this year or something.
I'll be saving this one.
Oh yeah, I know you will.
Yeah, it really is a good photo.
Thank you.
And it's sharp too, which is good.
Yeah, depth of field is very nice.
And nice to have so many still standing, representing different sizes. It's just perfect.
Yeah, good subject. Look at the ring on that one that's lying down. Really impressive. Can you see the whole mushroom of the one lying down if you move the Oh yeah, okay, good. Nice.
Look at the gills. They look almost attached to the stem. It hasn't expanded yet. The cap, that is. So it gives you an appearance as if the gills are attached to the stem, not free.
Yeah.
Is this section Validae?
That's the section Validae. Yep. A bulb, a ring, and no striations on the cap. And lots of color in the cap as well.
Well, actually amerirubescens 05 sometimes has marginal striations, even when it's young. It's not a consistent trait though.
Yeah, there's like at least one other species in Validae that also has striations. The umbilicata has striations, but they're very short.
Is that one?
Umbilicata is from the Flavorubens group.
Oh, okay. You know what? 05, that's been documented. That one now has a name. I forget the name. The name's on Mycocquebec, so I guess the Canadians published it.
Oh, really? When did that happen?
I think so. I think 05 now has a name. I mean, you know what? I'm going to leave. I'll come back. I'll let you know.
That was nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shihang, would you like to go?
All right. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
All right. I saw this one in Duke form, really on the pavement. Appear like a rug, but it is a puffball. I'm trying to figure out which type of puffball it is. This is the top. And the next picture will be the bottom. When I slice it, it's totally white inside.
Cool. What do you guys think? Like craniformis or
Oh, some sort of Calvatia. Craniformis, cyana, what is it? Cyanthiformis. Those are very similar. Seems early for those, even in New Jersey.
Yeah, and this is about a week and a half ago.
Wow.
so when they get older, it can be easier to tell what it is because the spores will turn purple on one.
Yeah, when they're really mature and the spores are really just dust, then it's got cyathiformis spores are grayish purplish sort of.
So it's until the spore turned color, we really cannot tell which one then.
I would say you can't tell until
Okay.
I think see like the patterning of the way the cap surface is cracked into what looks like scales. I think one of the two species is supposedly more apt to do that, but I forget which, and it's probably not a consistent way to tell.
Okay, fair enough. Let me see. There one. Let me see, how do I get back?
There it is. There's that music. It's going to get us in trouble.
All right.
Sorry, I went away. I forgot to mute. I got the name of the Amanita. I'm going to put it in the chat. The one for amerirubescens 05. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting. Go ahead.
Okay, so this one I saw on the grass, growing among the grass. There's single one, and there's some like a group. Let me see if I have a picture on top. So I actually took back and made a spore print, and it's white. So I not suggest some kind of Lyophyllum.
Yeah, Lyophyllum decastes group.
So I cannot tell. Well, what's the tele characteristics?
Cespitous growth in spring in open areas, white spores. It's a group, so there's a lot of variation,
Yeah.
morphologically speaking. If you get spores, the spores. If you look at spores with a microscope, I think they're almost round.
Okay, that's one thing I have never been trying yet. So
Well,
I
we're
do
starting
need
to
to
do
look at
that
the
now.
spore. Yeah. Okay, so that's all I want to share. I will stop here.
Where did you find that one, Shihong? Like,
This is near in my neighborhood. It's I think nearby there's oak tree and hickory trees. It's on pavement, by a pavement in the
Yeah.
grass. Yeah.
Well, I think another thing that Lyophyllum decastes group, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, don't they also like paths pretty much? Aren't they like kind of on the path a lot of the time?
Open areas, lawns, wood
Yeah, it's kind of,
borders.
yeah, definitely it's open area.
Mm.
It's by a major road and it's on the sidewalk.
Yeah, even that top one for being so open, it's got that like rolled rim look. Is that a thing?
You mean like the wavy part?
Oh, the enrolled margin.
Right.
I'm not sure.
I think
Let me check. I'll check.
I think
And
so.
it looks like the little one down there's got it pretty distinct. But then the bigger one, even at the spots where it's real open, it looks like it still has that. It's just interesting.
Okay, you mean the enrolling thing.
Yeah, right there where the gills meet the Peleus, the
Mhm.
Peleus comes down a little bit, like around the edge a little.
Okay. Let's see.
Mike Quebec says Lyophyllum decastes, the margin is curved
Okay, the margin's curved.
at first, right? So it'll open up and become
Yeah,
nuts.
Mushroom Expert doesn't say anything about the margin of the cap, but one of the photos shows young caps with enrolled margins similar to this. That would be on Mushroom Expert.
Mhm. All right,
Cool, those are fun.
Yeah, make sure you get a white spore print. That would be telling. If the
Okay.
spore print is even slightly pigmented, then it's something else.
All right.
Yeah, I'm thinking specifically like Entolomas. So if you got like a pink spore print, then you'd probably have an Entoloma.
Mhm.
Does anybody else want to share from theirs, or should we go hit the emails?
Sounds like emails.
Emails it is. Hunter, you want to go? You were first in.
Sure. I have COVID right now, so I'm like pretty down and out, but I'll do my best. So thanks.
Figure this. Here we go. You guys can see that.
So I'm pretty sure this is the first Amanita I found where in my area this year, and I think it's Chrysoblema. I have a picture of a bigger one open and the base out of the ground. Um, we should definitely look at. Yeah, here we go. I thought it was interesting how yellow it was down low, and then I was like, is this like something else like flaviconia or something else? But I think it's just chrysoblema. What do others think?
I think so. Igor, what do you think? I think it's Chrysoblema. It's just
Yeah,
a
it's
it's just a
Chrysoblema.
particularly scarlet one, but
Yeah, it's more orange on the disc,
yeah.
and it lacks these distinctive rings of velar remnants at the base of the steps, so it looks more like just smooth there.
Yeah, but the in situ photos seem to show some of the deep basal deposits. So if you
I
go
mean,
back to that first photo,
if you can zoom in, also in that picture.
Which one?
Well,
Where?
we can look at both. If you go back to the first picture, where it just shows one mushroom, Yeah, you see the rings are there present. You can make out the rings
Yeah.
of velar material at the base of
Mhm.
of this type.
Yep.
Oh,
They're not
this
as prominent, but you can see the stacks, structure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a real typical chrysoblema, but
No.
I think that's
Look
what
at
it
the
is.
warts. They're very fluffy and pyramidal, which is also
Look at
unusual.
the stipes has a lot of flocos stuff on it too. That seems a little
Mhm.
unusual.
in the next picture, it looked like it was like wiping away from maybe the pine needles here.
It's just probably the limbus internus of the vulva. So maybe those can be removed. They're more powdery as opposed to scaber-like, say in Lycynum. So yeah, maybe that material can be detached and disappears with age. But yeah, I mean, I would say almost certainly this is your muscaria variety, Gisoia or chrysoblema, which would be the earlier name for that species.
They're pretty.
Yeah, I saw quite a few of these in the Pine Barrens recently. Not as orange. They were all yellow.
Yeah, I see the orange ones like that once in a while. I
Mhm.
mean, usually they're yellow around here as well. Maybe a little orange on the disc, but sometimes there have been times I found pretty vividly, like scarlet ones like that.
It's like Mycena leaiana.
Yep, is that a beech tree?
Oh, Hunter, you're muted.
Last week I showed these tiny little orange fruiting bodies between a piece of bark and a branch, and we looked at them and weren't really sure, but I was guessing it was Mycena leaiana. And so I just have a picture of I've confirmed that but I have two pictures of it in different stages that I just wanted to share. So this is just coming in, and then I have one more that definitely
Oh,
confirmed.
wow.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's nice. I have a little this is in my yard, and I brought this branch home because it either had Hickory or it had uh Tremella fusiformis growing on it, but apparently this is growing on it too. So probably, I don't know, I would guess oak, but the bark looks kind of hard, it's hard to say. I mean, it doesn't really look typical oak. It's just a pretty small limb. So, but that's it, and that, and I got a couple MO observations too, and maybe another loose picture or two.
Is it in? I have to go to the other thing.
No, just go back to this email, um, and they should be in there. And I'm sorry,
Oh, sorry.
oh, it's okay.
I
I'll
was
try to.
excited there.
Okay, and then there's another two more observations in the first email, but let's do this one. So I think this is Marasmius sullivantii, sullivantii. And basically it grows with white oak, and it was growing with white oak. It has the wiry stems, and the color varies from like white near the cap to red to darker, almost black at further down. And then it should have some hairs on the stipes, and I think that's what this is. So it's I know it's in mushroomexpert.com as being found in central Illinois, and I think I see it quite often in northern Illinois too, or north central, or wherever I am.
You know, Marasmius is it sullivantii? Is that how you say it? That one's usually really red. The cap is usually really red.
Mm. These were not red.
How big were these? Were the caps really small?
Yeah, really small. Like and it was a white spore print.
Yeah, white spore print. That doesn't tell
Yeah.
you a whole lot. So, they don't look really like Rhizomarasmius pyrocephalus, but they don't look completely unlike that species either.
Mm.
The caps are usually more plainer in that species, but these might be young ones that aren't open yet.
I know what you're talking about, that species. I feel like this is a Marasmius just based on the texture of the
Yeah.
shape.
Well, that Rhizomarasmius sullivan or pyrocephala, that used to be a Marasmius also.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Okay. Um, yeah, and I know I found that this time of year. So it is possible. Uh, um, I I don't know. I didn't. I do have the spores on a slide, so I can take a peek. And that should help, but not now.
Nice.
Yeah. If you have the football, then one thing you can check for Rhizomarasmius pyrocephala is it has hymeneal cystidia that look like little towers with a head on top.
Okay.
They're kind of shaped like little towers,
Okay.
but with a round head on top. So it tapers from bottom to top, and then there's like a round head.
Did I miss the other
Yeah,
one?
there should be two more observations in that one with the this email. There's links like in the email, the body of the email. See them up there? Float up to the
Oh,
top.
up here.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No,
Yeah, cool.
please, it's my tech savviness.
So this is a pretty positive Panaeolus papilionaceus group. And I've got microscopy on this and a bunch of shots. It has a black spore print and pretty cool gills with that overhanging cuticle and hair-like structures on the cap. These like long hairs, I think they're called satia or something. And it's an interesting look for sure. Sometimes they'll have kind of like a velar material on like a black line of velar material. This one sort of does.
That?
Yeah.
It looks like it has appendicular material hanging
Yeah.
from the cap margin. So I think there's that's a nice trait in genus Panaeolus because I think there are only a few that have that.
Yes, I think so too. And I found another observation that I cited in the observation. And it seemed really like pretty much a dead ringer, the same mushroom. And then, yeah, these are the spores, and they had the spores as well in their observation. So these are kind of like almond shaped, but what is the official name for this shape?
Oh, it's amatibuloid or something like that.
Amygdaliform.
Amygdaliform. Okay, that sounds right. Yeah.
Oh, I said
Yeah.
that with a question.
That sounds better than what I said, though. Looks like
Okay, I'll make
the
it
spore print probably was pure black, right?
black. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the habitat?
This was like trailside in White Oaks, which it is associated with. I think. No, I think it's that other one we were looking at, but
Oh, that's a nice photo.
oak woodlands. Yeah, and I think those long stretches are called like setia or something. They're long hair like structures.
If they're setae, then if you scope a little piece of the cap surface, you'll find that those should be easy to find at 400 power.
Oh, well, I think it's like another word that sounds like that. You're talking about like the cells with the divisions or whatever.
No, not septa, setae,
Oh,
Setae.
oh, okay. So I can.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're like hair. They're like hairs, but they're really small. But
Oh,
they're like big. It under a microscope, they're big.
I see.
You know, at
Okay.
500 or at 400 power, they're big.
Cool. Okay, got it. Okay. And then I think I have one more oh yeah, and Sarcoscypha occidentalis. I just decided to grab it, and then I think these are the spores. They looked very much like the spores. And I'm sorry about my presentation, but you can see the spores. They look very much like the ones in mushroomexpert.com, but unfortunately my little cups, because these are very tiny little scarlet cups, as and you guys do have this one, I believe. um they shrunk to like nothing. I couldn't even find them, so I wasn't sure. I wasn't positive that these that I was scoping the right right spores. Um, but I think this is them. They look pretty much like this.
You know what I started doing when I bring stuff home that I feel like is gonna shrink up on me? I put it like on a slide or whatever, and then I'll put that on a piece of paper and write on the piece of paper.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a really good idea. And I think you've even mentioned that before. Sounds like a good plan. Um, and before we move on, does anyone, I asked this before, but does anyone have some slide covers nearby that they could just tell me what size they're using?
Oh, I brought
Oh,
them
the
back
slips, you
downstairs.
mean?
I meant to send you an email about that.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm just, yeah, because I'm wondering. I mean, I'm pretty sure they come in different sizes, but kind of curious what you guys use, and um, because I think I need bigger ones, but I'm not sure. So
You know what? Give me a second, and I'm gonna run downstairs right now and get a pack.
thanks.
Do you use the square ones or the round ones?
Square. What about
Yeah, I
you?
think probably maybe close to 2 centimeters,
Okay,
half inch, something like that.
so you're using
A little
pretty
bigger
small
than a
ones
half inch,
too,
maybe.
I think.
By the way, did this Sarcoscypha occidentalis, did these have stems?
Yeah, I tried to get them, but they were kind of buried. But yeah, they have little stems, and if you like blow it up, you can kind of see that they're embedded in this little piece of wood and dirt. Um, but yeah, like yes.
All right, these covers are 18 by 18 millimeter
Okay,
and point 13 to point 17 millimeters thickness.
okay, that's what I got as well. Okay,
Yeah, it's almost 2 centimeters, a little less.
okay.
That's kind of that's what I use.
Mm-hmm. I feel like my drops must be way too big because there's always so much liquid after I put it on. And I know you mentioned that like injector or like syringe thing that you
Yeah,
use.
the syringe thing I use only for melters because I really don't want to waste any of it.
All right.
But like for KOH or Congo Red or stuff you can get pretty readily. I have these like these thin plastic tubes, and usually I uptake only a little bit. Sometimes it's too much though. You're right. You put the slip on, and it's like oozing out along the edges, the perimeter, and that's not good. So
yes.
So a lot of times what I'll do is if I put a drop of liquid on spores or some material that I'm smashing, or if well I don't take real careful sections. I'm just not good enough at doing that. But if there's too much liquid, I will take one of the lens wipes and just sort of crease it so it comes to a point, and stick the point into the liquid and let that point soak up a little bit of the liquid before I put the slip on top.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, now the only problem with that is if you do that with melters, you're going to think you have an amyloid reaction regardless of whether you do or not, because the lens wipe is amyloid. And it will cause the reaction with melters. It'll change the melters to black. So then whatever you're mounting is going to end up looking amyloid. So you just need to be aware of that.
And you were also suggesting maybe uptaking it with a plastic, like uptaking extra.
You know what? I'm gonna get a couple of these, and later on, I'll just show you, live.
Thanks. Okay.
Live from Pennsylvania. Be right back.
Doug, would you like to tell us who and what you got here? Still here? Oh no.
He's muted. Doug, are you muted? Or he walked away?
Oh no.
Are there more pictures of this thing, or is it just the one? Can we zoom in?
I think it's just the one, but man, look at that.
Cool. So this is a bug under there?
Say some kind of moth or something.
Yeah. I forget, what is it, Ankylomyces or something like that?
Yeah, he's got the name Akanthomyces.
Yeah, that really long one. Starts with A and it's got a K in it and lots of syllables. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to really, you got to tuck into some research to really get into these, but it's not a bad idea.
No, it's a beautiful find too. It's in good condition.
Yeah, so is Akanthomyces, is that the one that's on moths?
Yeah, I just looked it up and it is.
Nice.
Well, that was lovely, Doug.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, that was awesome. Virginia.
Can you hear me now, Chris? I'm sorry about that.
Oh, hey.
I had to shut down my whole old iPhone 13. It keeps shutting itself off and I can't troubleshoot it. Sorry about that. I could hear you guys asking where I was. So I hope I didn't interrupt your discussion, but do you have the photo up there?
I could get back there.
There it is. Yeah, I was out in a state park near myself where I live, and I presented another entomo pathogenic fungus on an insect. I believe it was a caterpillar about 2 months ago that I'd seen. And I was just walking along and I saw this branch at about chest height. And I realized this is a moth. And this fungus releases its spores and it lands on the moth's cuticle, which is pretty hard. It's got chitin and it's got a whole bunch of proteinaceous cuticular proteins to keep it from being attacked. And most of these produce I forget what it's called, an aprosorium or aprosorum, and they grow a little peg and they secrete enzymes to degrade the chitin and penetrate, and then they move in and grow within the insect's hemolymph, and they spread throughout the entire body. They kill the insect. This, like the other one I presented, has a behavioral change in the moth. Right before it dies, it climbs on a higher branch, supposedly because it would release its spores better, and dies just like you see it. The spores start out as, according to Michael Quove, sort of yellowish, and then they're knobby, and then they grow these kind of cool spikes. You can see the body of the moth below. It's just a pretty strange sight. I find these type of fungi very interesting. Just hunted around a little bit, what I could read about them, and there's quite a few species in this genus. There's a big paper out of China that I saw, and there are people they will attack. Some of them are quite specific to the species, and others are a little more generalist. But they'll not Akanthomyces, but other fungi. I mean, they're related to cordyceps in a sense, and they will attack 15 or 16 different orders of insects. And they also attack arachnids, and there's groups working on trying to make biocides as arachicides for ticks. There's quite a bit of research going on now using this general class, excuse me, not class, this genus. So it's sort of, it's fascinating, the biology and the behavioral aspect of it. And unfortunately, that's the only photo I had. I was with a group of people and I didn't want to get left behind, but it's kind of cool. I'd never seen it before.
So cool. That's so nice. You got to see that.
Yeah, the one photo you got, you really got it.
Has anyone else seen this? I'd never seen it. I don't know how common it is.
Something similar. Like you said, there's a lot of species, so might not be the same.
I've used the same genus name on moths before, but beyond that, I don't know much about them.
Yeah, their biology and life cycle. Apparently, the spores are found in the soil also. So yeah, check out some of the papers on it if you're interested.
And did you say in the genus Akanthomyces there are species that attack arachnids as well, or is that a different cordyceps sensu-lato type fungus?
I believe it was in Akanthomyces,
Oh, wow.
and there's a 24 paper out of China. I should have sent the reference, but I don't have it with me, where they did a lot of DNA sequencing, and they have quite a few different species. And I was surprised at the amount of work going on trying to use them as biological control agents. You know, just the not just this genus, but other closely related species.
Because
So
normally when I find something like this on a spider in particular, I use the genus Gibellula, but again, you know, I don't know how much. I don't know much about these things, but Gibellula in South Jersey, that's my first thought when I find something growing on a spider.
does it make these kind of spikes like that?
Yep.
And how do you spell that? Gabellia?
I think it's Gibel, Gibel.
Gibellia. Okay.
Ulla or
Okay.
like that.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Virginia, you still here?
I'm still here. Yeah, I showed this last week as Lasiosphaeria species, because it didn't look woolly at all to me at the time. But anyway, in this week I looked at it more carefully. You can't tell anything from that picture. Go to the next one.
Damn. I don't know. Is there another?
It's
Oh, here we go.
there you are. Yeah. Okay. So they don't look woolly at all. So I didn't think that they were the ovina. But when I put it up, somebody, a lady from Germany, said she called them Lasiosphaeria ovina. Anyway, so I guess I had to agree with her. I took some more pictures, looked at it more closely. The SI, the spores that look like have about like 3 droplets in them. The SI have usually about 8 spores in them. I just smashed that and it just showed the mass of the SI yellowish. And that's the outer coating of it. I couldn't really see a lot of the woolly tomentum. So this time in another picture, I did find a piece of the, so that's just the mass of the SI. Okay, so in this one, in the lower half, the SI has that circle, that little circle, and that's a characteristic called a refractile spot of this ovina.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and those are just a couple more spores. And that's a piece of hyphae, which might be part of the woolliness or something within its septate. That's another SI with the spores in it. I was looking at all the spores to find, to see if I could find one that had the hyaline points on each end, but I couldn't find any. Now this, in the very center, I took a razor blade and cut one in half, and it's sort of hollow in the middle.
It's weird how you
Not
could
means
see how
anything.
yellow it is there.
Pardon?
It's weird how you could see how yellow it is there now that that other photo makes like more sense.
Oh, well, this is not, doesn't show yellow in this one. In the very center of the picture, yeah, it's
It's
hollow.
hollow.
It looks dark, almost blackish. But when you smash it, yeah, that's more of a close-up. When you smash it, you can see the mass of the acai are yellowish. So I'm just calling it Lasiosphaeria ovina, which ovine means sheep-like. Even though it's not very woolly, I've seen a lot more on naturalists of other people who have put them on, and they look a lot more woolly than these do. But I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah, I can't speak to the woolly nature. I don't know this thing at all, but I can tell you that that's yellow. The interior that Chris just mentioned, that looks yellow to me. Really?
Oh yeah, yes. Well, the one where I smashed it, that was definitely yellow.
Yeah, these are
But
really
that's all I
cool.
have. Yeah.
Could we look at the asci again, the mass of them, that kind of mass, the yellow mass?
Oh yeah.
Okay, keep going. That
Yeah.
one.
So,
That
what are
that
the
one.
spots? I'm just curious because, like, I often see this under the microscope, like some things that stuff that looks like this, and I'm like, okay, that's just. I just kind of toss it out and don't pay any attention to it. But it sounds like I should. And is there anything you can, do with it, or?
Well, I don't, not too much. It's not it wasn't that 1000x. It was, I forget now on that one. I mean, all you can tell from that is the outside, and then the mass of the SI, and that are definitely yellow, which is a characteristic. If you zoom in, you might be able to see the SI and see, that they do have like eight spores, which is common.
Yeah.
Down in the lower half, I think you can see some SI.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. I'll start paying attention to this stuff that looks like this more.
Uh-huh. You have to look at it different ways. I try to take a slice, I try to smash it at different powers under the microscope. I mean, I just put it in water. I didn't add any stains or anything. It's supposed to be, according to the Swiss book, J minus. Anyway.
What does that mean?
I think that's iodine.
Interesting.
Oh, a while since I really did much with this book, but I think that would be iodine. I'd have to look at the instructions in the front of the book. I don't usually do too much with Ascomycetes.
Well, that's good work for that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We got Dave.
Yeah, first I'm going to show on the camera the little pipettes that I use to uptake the common liquids. So there's just like a bulb on the end. These are thin hollow plastic. They're
We
forget how
can't
much they
see it.
cost.
Oh, I can't see it.
Here's if you gotta adjust your view to be able to see other participants, because I can see him showing the pipette.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm putting it up to the two of them up to the camera.
Oh, I have a bunch of those. Okay. Good.
Yeah. Now sometimes I uptake too much liquid, and then I have to blot a little bit of it. But these are fairly efficient. You know, they're better than like one of those rubber topped eyedropper things, you know, which really uptake too much. Anyway, Igor, have you seen this? Just got Steve Russell just posted on this observation today or earlier today, I believe, and he's saying that it's Phylloporus rhodoxanthus,
And
and
how does
he's
and how
when
does you know?
you blast it, you get like 20 high, mid to high 90s matches. But what I'm wondering is, if I didn't have time to look yet, what I'm wondering is if all these matches are from North America, and it's just somebody got the ball rolling once upon a time calling something rhodoxanthus, and now there's a whole
Yeah,
bunch
it
of
was it was
matches.
Roy Holling. Basically, I mean, I've talked about this problem before. There were a series of papers
Oh,
published by
okay.
Roy Holling and Associates, like in 2010 and 11, and they proposed their best guess for rhodoxanthus, and those are the early sequences under that name. And then, voila, you
Oh,
just
okay.
follow suit, and you wind up with a plethora of rhodoxanthus, quote unquote, accessions in GenBank, and everybody,
Yeah.
oh, that must be the species, so let's call it this.
Okay. I'm sorry. I forgot the story. So it's rhodoxanthus sensu Halling.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't
Okay.
know what rhodoxanthus is. Um, there's no holotype. I think it was actually electotype or neotype or something, and it was selected later on, I think by Singer, maybe even. So there's no sequence of that collection. So we have several of these rhodoxanthus-like species by DNA, and it just leaves everybody wondering, what the real thing is. Please, stand up and announce yourself. So, but yeah, it's if it's yellow mycelium, it cannot be leucomycelinus. But even that thing, has other attacks that have white mycelium as well. So I have no idea, like why all of a sudden proposed, bolstered, the voting confidence for that species, because I don't think he sequenced the type collection.
Nah, but there's a lot of matches on GenBank.
Well, there's
For
there's a matches. There's a phylogenetic species, okay,
right,
that has the same DNA, and somebody just
right.
decided to call it rhodoxanthus, and that's what this thing is. But this is not necessarily rhodoxanthus. I mean, it could be, but I wouldn't be so certain.
Okay. Okay. I forgot the explanation, but you have given it previously. Sorry.
Yeah, look at those papers. I mean, if you can find them, I have them somewhere buried, in my folders. I can forward them to you. But you'll see what I'm talking about. And there's going to be papers that were published later by the Chinese, or I forget, maybe by the South Americans, that basically, have a look at their species. For instance, Roy Holling called a North American collection uh, by a name that came from another part of the world, Phylloporus bellus. So people jumped on that idea, and now that species in North America is called bellus, but it's not bellus; it's something else, because bellus is like comes from a different country altogether, maybe even different continent. So this is the same idea with rhodoxanthus. You cannot propose a name unless you know to certainty, and we do not.
I'm muted. Okay, so I will not upgrade my ID proposal to, I'd call it that.
Right. We're going back to the same problem I've discussed many times. If it says something in
Yeah, yeah.
GenBank, it's this. Do not believe it. You have to really go and vet all the collections. So maybe there's a type collection somewhere. You have to do your homework and find if that exists.
Yeah.
Because if
Well,
somebody proposed a name, a long time ago, people decided, they picked up on that, and they decided, started calling their own later accessions, by that name, and eventually you have a case of misinformation. People just assume that that name must be correct for that particular phylogenetic species, and it's not.
right. Yeah, I didn't have time to look at the sequences on GenBank, but I'm guessing they're probably all North American.
They are North American, sure. But again, we have a larger, I hate to use that word, diversity of taxa in North American Phylloporus. So you have to really carefully investigate. I mean, I'm not saying this is not Phylloporus, Rhodoxanthus. I mean, eventually it might, it might become that, phylogenetic species, but you have to have solid proof. You cannot go with assumptions that were made a long time ago at the dawn of the DNA era, when people decided, thought that the situation was very simple. They just grabbed a couple of collections and, kind of matched the morphological profile and say, okay, let's call this phylogenetic species, Phylloporus rhodoxanthus. Okay, but that, again, that's just, reaching. We cannot do this anymore.
Right. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, you've
I
explained
mean, you don't have to
that.
apologize. I'm
I
just
just
saying that,
forgot.
I saw that on the mo, and I'm like, why would Steve propose something like this? Like he was specifically looking at the observations, and he was looking for sequence collections of what he thinks is Rhodoxanthus. Maybe that's what this is. But so far, what I could see it from today, yours was the only Phylloporus that he proposed this name for.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, I mean, but sure, let's talk about this. Yeah, it has a yellow mycelium. I mean, I can show you another species that sort of fits the same description, and it has a different sequence altogether, a very long sequence, over 1,000 base pairs.
Ah.
Could that be Rhodoxanthus? Maybe. Yeah, let me
Okay.
find an
Well, anyway,
observation.
this is an old observation from 2021. I just thought that it
It's
was
not very
interesting.
old.
So
Well, not that old.
long story short, if you're not going to get those things sequenced, just call it, the guild polypore,
Yeah, we'll call it, you can give it like a cryptic, Phylloporus, whatever, if Steve Sequenson happens to be Indiana 01, well, let's call it that. I think that would be more appropriate at this time. Because you've got to really do your homework and say, okay, we have a concept, we have a genetic concept of Phylloporus or Phylloporus, Rhodoxanthus, based on this particular collection that we decide to call Rhodoxanthus. Okay, be it the type or something collected, in the location where the type was picked, something like that. You have to do more work. You have to convince people that this is what we believe that species has to be, in the absence of any better evidence. And the best evidence, of course, you can get is a sequence from the holotype.
Right. Okay, so look at this mushroom here. And so when I saw it from top, from above, I thought it looked like Lucaria. I still thought it looked like Lucaria when I saw it in profile like this. Still thought it looked like Lucaria. I mean, sometimes they have subdecurrent gills, Lucaria. And so I thought I had a Lucaria until I saw the spores. So look at these spores are kind of ellipsoid. Some of them are kind of flattened on one side. Some of them are almost elongate. They don't look like Lacaria spores. Lacaria spores are usually subglobose or broadly ellipsoid, and usually with warts that are pretty good size. And I didn't see any warts on these. I'm pretty sure I looked through my other microscope where I don't get good photos, and I didn't see any warts. So INAT also thought this was Lacaria because I've been putting things on INAT and then importing to MO. So it's just an easy way to do things, really. So Brandon, if you're there, we had this discussion a few times about what's easier to post on. Well, right now I'd say it's easier to post on INAT, and it's easy to take your INAT posts and import them to MO. You can do that, like I do 7 at a time, because the field that you fill in on INAT, you're supposed to be able to import 10 of them, but the field really only fits 7. And so it gets confusing when you try to add more than 7. So I've been making my posts on INAT, and then at the same time I have another window open, and I just keep pasting in the INAT observation numbers into the field on MO. I get 7 of them, click the thing to import, and then go back to INAT and do another post. And by the time I get back to MO, the other 7 are up on MO. So it's pretty efficient, pretty fast.
Nice. Dave, thanks for that. I'm gonna try to do that with my INAT posts, because I agree with you. Like today I made 24 observations on INAT from my phone that I took the picture with, and it took a while because it's 24 things that you got to find the photo from. But that would have taken me much longer on MO. So I'll try to do that import thing.
Yeah, you would do that. You would do that back at home. Then you would just go to open up INAT, open up your observations, and then open up MO and click import from INAT, and just fill in that field I do 7 at a time. It's pretty fast.
I didn't even know I had that. That's great.
Yeah, that is. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, the only problem is that if you create a post directly to MO, you can post large file photos, and it doesn't compress them. But INAT compresses photos, which actually means that it's quicker to post things on INAT, really, once you learn how to use it, because it's compressing the files, so it's not taking as long to load them. But then I just open INAT, go from one observation to another, and just keep pasting the numbers in, and not the whole address thing, just the number of the observation you paste into the field in MO. And I've been doing 7 at a time. It's pretty fast. So anyway, I don't know. Is this a Leucaria?
Anyway, this mushroom, yeah, right. Those spores are not Leucaria spores. So.
I don't think so. Now there's a thing called pseudo-Leucaria, but that has white gills that are typically not subdecurrent or decurrent. And the spores are kind of in the ballpark with this shape, but not with a very prominent apiculus. And on some of these, you can see they're almost like lacrimoid, because they have that, the one end comes to a fairly large apiculus. But these spores are not totally different from pseudo-Leucaria. There's one species, I forget the name of it, but I don't think it's that either. So anyway, I
was any part of this thing greasy or slippery, slimy?
Nah, it's maybe a little bit waxy on the gills, but it's not. I don't think it's in the Hygrophoracea. It was I was on mossy ground. I preserved it. There's going to be a chance that I can submit a lot of things for sequencing, because we've got this thing going in Pennsylvania where Sam from Philadelphia is going to try to get a grant for us. So anyway, this will be one thing that I'll probably send it. Now, another thing that reminds me of Leucaria, look between the gills. See the little webby sort of connections between the gills? For some reason, spiders like Leucaria mushrooms, and they spin like web-like stuff on the gills of Leucaria. I've seen it often, and it looks like that's what might be going on here as well. So,
did you smell it?
Yeah, I think so. It didn't smell like much of anything. But anyway,
what about?
I thought it was interesting because it just seems to run contrary to what I thought it was and what INAT thought it was as well. Yeah, we can move on to another one unless there was a question. So I don't know what this thing is. It's some LBM that was growing on mossy ground. INAT wanted to say it was Galerina. Those spores don't look like Galerina spores. The Q ratio is too small. So these are like broadly ellipsoid, I would call most of these. And I mounted in melters, and at least some Galerina mushrooms have dextrinite spores. These spores kind of just darkened a little bit in the melters, but I think it wasn't much different from the color of the spores, which was brownish. So I don't know what these are either. I don't think they're Conocybe. The spores don't remind me of Conocybe. So I don't know what this is either. So this one, hopefully I can send in for sequencing also. Maybe it is some sort of Galerina. I don't know.
Yeah, those spores were, I mean, what was the Q? Like close to 1 on those?
Yeah, it's like 1.1. Probably average about 1.1. I didn't like measure a whole bunch of them and compute a mean or anything. I just kind of guesstimate.
But even
some of them look like 1.2. Some of them look like 1.1. Some of them look like 1.0. But those are probably just standing on edge. So you get a view from the one pole downward.
Even for a brown spored thing, which this was, right?
Yeah.
That shape is unusual.
Yeah, a little bit. Diconica mushrooms have spores that are not completely unlike these. A little more angular, though. Diconica spores are a little more angular, subrhomboid, sort of like the spores you're not supposed to say the name of.
Yeah,
there you go.
P dots. Did you scope any gill material?
No, I didn't. I just got these into the dryer because I don't know. I didn't have enough time that day. I wanted to make sure I dehydrated a good sample of these. So I just put one on a slide. Some spores dropped within an hour or so, and there they are.
Cool.
Yeah, pretty cool little mushroom, I thought.
Want to go back to the cap real quick, Chris?
Is it like a granule type of thing, or is it the like this
Little
like
bit
the
toward the
cracky?
margin. There's sort of some little hairs or something. You can see on the bigger one.
Yeah, on the one.
There's been a lot of rain around here, so a lot of ornamentation has been getting washed off of whatever happens to come out. It's been like raining every other day, maybe sometimes several days in a row.
That's good news. And also, it was grown in the moss, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I posed these for the photo, but I posed them in a spot that was pretty much similar to where I found them.
Sure.
But, the spot where I found them was a lot shadier, and it was right on the bank of a stream too. It was a really awkward spot to try to get good photos. So I posed them, but not in a way that's misleading.
And I wanted to go back to this photo for the one on the upper right, but it's not like split the cap. It's
these are not Inocybe or anything like that. They're not anything in the Inocybaceae. I don't think so. I doubt. So there's a few oddball genera of brown spored mushrooms that just don't get discussed very often. And I should probably try to do a little searching around on this one. It's just I've been going outside so much. I've been spending a lot of time walking around outside.
It's good. That's what we want to be doing now, right?
Yeah. Well, my doctor told me I'm supposed to try to get exercise, so this is an excuse for me to get exercise. So this is an odd-looking Inocybe, isn't it? It's an Inocybe.
Yeah. What
And I
do
think
we call
I have a
what do we
name for
call
this
that?
species too.
Fluted? Is that what the
Yeah, it's just kind of split. It's just kind of split. It may have been two mushrooms trying to be one. Sometimes you'll see that, or it may have just split down the middle, too much moisture or something. But the other one's kind of split also. The one on the left is the cap is a little bit split. So maybe that's something that this species does. I actually proposed a species name for this one because the micro fit pretty well. Oddly nodulous spores, as we'll see. And there's a partial veil of cortina. See the remnants of the cortina?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's little strands connecting the margin of the cap to the stipe. So that's a trait, that's something to go on. But with these Inocybaceae, it's really about microscopy, because sometimes there are like Inocybe mushrooms that look just like like pseudosperma mushrooms, and until you look under the microscope. So this one does have the Inocybe type cap, right? The radially fibrillose, right? And so this looks like it is going to split apart when it gets a little older. And there's the remnants of the partial veil. So look at the spores. They're very oddly sort of nodulous, angular, jagged, sort of almost like Entoloma spores. But when I wasn't really able to capture it in a photo. But when I used use the view on the microscope to change the plane I was looking at, you can see the three dimensionality. You can see the little sort of nodes. Pretty interesting though. So that's another interesting trait to go on.
Yeah,
These sort of
very
unusual
boxy, Dave. Like
yeah, but yeah, a little bit boxy, yeah, and pretty big queue also for the nodulous spores. So they're kind of a lot longer than they are wide. And then there are lots and lots of these cystidia and they seem to be all over the gills, the faces, I think I have a photo here of the gill edge coming up, and I think they look pretty much the same. So like these long, they have what a long pedicle is what they call it. See, it's like a handle on the one end, like a stem sort of on the one that's in the upper right, on the right side of that one. It's got like that long neck. So they're calling that a pedicle. And that was the Pileopellis. It's probably just fibrillous. So I actually didn't check. I should check the description of the Pileopellis for the species that I think this might be. So I'm proposing for this one, Inocybe, I think it's Marasmius. It's more Pileopellis there. It's just sort of a tangle of hyphae. So I guess it's aculeatus, I suppose you would call this. And that's a hyphae or hypha. I'm not sure. Is that a clamp connection there? I don't think it is. I think that's just like a piece of debris or something, because the other septa don't appear to have clamps. But this just might be the shortcomings of my microscope that we're seeing here. But anyway, yes. So I proposed a name for these are growing in moss, near Scots Pine, and this particular place, this stand of Scots Pine, I have made collections of other types of mushrooms that are considered to be European species. And it appears that at least some of them have probably come across the ocean on the tree roots a long time ago. So and this might be another one. I don't know. I didn't research this name a whole lot. The name is mentioned. I think it's mentioned in Methane's key.
I'm on Dave. I'm on Myco Quebec, and I will read you word for word of the spores. Irregularly polygonal.
Yeah.
Decorated with some nodules. Pale.
Yeah. Yeah.
6.5 to 10 by 4.5 or 4 to
Yeah.
5.
6.5 to 10 by. So the Q is pretty big on some of them. So, like 10 by 4.5, the Q is going to be bigger than 2. And some of them look like the Q is bigger than 2. So,
but the polygonal thing, I mean, yeah, right?
Yeah, yeah, an unusual word to describe Inocybe spores. Yep. So, I think that might be what I have here. Of course, they've been preserved. I preserved this collection. I thought this was an Entoloma at first when I first saw it.
So when you put this one aside, like are you a little plastic bag with some like silica or something?
Yeah, well, I'm supposed to be using that silica, but I don't have any.
You
I
just
suppose
write
I
the
should get some.
observation
I should
number
probably
on
get
it.
some of that. No, I just have it in a snack bag with a little like a label inside the bag, so I remember what it is.
Cool.
Yeah, I do that same thing, and I put it in a plastic container. All of my samples with a layer
Yeah.
of salt underneath.
Oh. Okay, so here is one of these small Galerina mushrooms that's really hard to identify as species. There's a few of them. And if you have, I think it's Singer was the one who produced the monograph on Galerina. There's like so many species in the book. My guess is that after they get done sequencing enough stuff, the book is going to become a lot smaller because these things are subdivided into species on some rather sort of dubious grounds, like maybe the cystidia are tiny bit different. But the interesting thing about this collection is, and I got a pretty good photo here, I thought, of these little guys. Sometimes I get lucky with my camera and the lighting is just right. But anyway, if you go to the advance ahead a few photos to the spores, there's something interesting about these spores. So there's a couple of photos here I took through the loop. That's through the loop. I should have got that little piece of grass out of the way from behind it. That sort of wrecked the photo a little bit. But yeah, sometimes you just don't see that stuff until you see the picture. So that's also through the loop. The spores are pretty big. A lot of times the spores on these little Galerinas can be large, but it's the next photo, I think, that there's another one or two spore photos coming up. So it might be the next one that shows the interesting feature the best. Yes. So look at the arrow pointing directly to the right of the arrow, just down a tiny bit. That spore. Do you notice how on the one end is kind of thicker? And it looks like there's a coating on like the upper right part of it. So this is called a calyptrate spore, and the one that's above it, not directly, not closest, but like the second one above, that one's also calyptrate. So a calyptrate spore has this like coating on the one end. It's like little flaps, looks like little wings sometimes. So these spores are calyptrate. Now, not all of them are, because I think these little wings fall off eventually. So some of the spores were calyptrate and some of them were not calyptrate. So just an interesting microscopic feature. I tried to like do a smash mount and find cystidia or something. And oh, there, see that one? You can really see it on that one right there. Yeah, you see on the one end, there's like the two wings, two like coatings on the one end, and that one also. Yeah, you can see.
Yeah, it
You
looks
see
like
pretty
that
well
one
on
only
those.
has one. Like the one up top either is not in this
Yeah,
one
the one up top
species.
is either not viewable because it's not positioned correctly, or
Right.
maybe it's starting to erode away. I don't know.
But yeah,
So
the top right one, you can clearly see those.
yeah, you can see that one pretty well. That's why I did a close up on this photo, because of that one spore. You can see it pretty well. Now, sometimes it's even more evident. Sometimes these calyptrate spores most of them will be calyptrate, and it looks like two wings almost on the one end of the spore. That's an interesting microscopic trait.
Pretty cool.
And it's always nice to find an Entoloma and you can actually like say what species it is with confidence. So I've had sample from this same location that is clearly the same species I've had sequenced. And Entoloma bicolor is what this is. So it's got this like yellow cap. So it's a nice shiny yellow cap. The gills are very pale to begin. Of course, they turn pink. The underside is pretty much otherwise white. And there's your typical Entoloma spores. And these have a really thin apiculus. And it's a lot of Entoloma spores have a big apiculi, but these are really thin. So not a terrible photo there, through my old beat up monocular scope. But this Entoloma bicolor, and this is also found in this same area where that Inocybe was found. So it's on the border, along the border of the woods between the Scots pine and a baseball field. And sometimes they're out in the field, and sometimes they're under the pines. So I think Entolomas are all considered to be saprophytes. So I don't know what these are decaying, but it's interesting to me. I mean, it almost seems like they're associated with these pines. But anyway, that's that one. Entoloma bicolor. It's a pretty cool species. When you learn it, it's pretty easy to identify.
Entolomas are saprophytes?
I think so, yeah.
I don't think so.
All right, let me check.
I'm out of the loop for most stuff, but I'm pretty sure all Entolomas are mycorrhizal.
I don't think so, but let me check.
I think
I got another
I
window
think so
open
too. I
here.
agree with Dave. I think they are sapropic.
Yeah, I think they're.
Is that a
I think-
recent find, Igor?
Well, I think it's
Or are they
lot
both?
of saprobes, some mycorrhizals and some parasitic.
Yeah, or they're one of those that does both. Yeah, that's probably
Well,
it.
there's Entoloma abortivum. That one is parasitic. But I think most of the other ones have been traditionally considered to be saprophytes. Now that might be changing, and it wouldn't surprise me if this Entoloma bicolor is one that where they end up questioning the ecology. Let me see what
I'll just say that this picture looks a lot like what I find in my front yard. And last year, I think I found it 5 different places. I have not tried to do sequencing just because too confusing or maybe no patience. But anyway, I see something like this a lot.
Yeah, when I say I have it sequenced, it was sent out. I think I put this into Fundus when when the club I'm in here had a grant to have 50 sequences. That this was one of the things I sent in. Let's see what it says here on Mycoquebec for the ecology. Ecology on soil and in forest litter in open or sandy environments. So they're hedging their bets here on what this thing does.
David, now I'm sorry. You said this is unicolor?
Bicolor. No,
Oh,
unicolor is
okay.
like yellow. It's
Yeah.
very yellow.
Yeah. I was sorry.
Yeah, it's like a more of a really vivid yellow. This is kind of a honey yellow. Yeah, this is bicolor. Let me look on Mushroom Expert because he's got a lot of his information goes back a ways. I don't know if he's got Entoloma bicolor, but I'll pick a different Entoloma, maybe one of the big ones. Okay, Entoloma. He doesn't have Entoloma bicolor. How about Entoloma griseum? That's one of the big ones. Let's see what he says. Ecology saprobic. All right, so that's the traditional viewpoint, is that most Entolomas are saprobic.
I've checked
But
several other species in his list, and they're saprobic, with exception of what is it? Hold on a second.
abortivum.
Luridum. Luridum could be either way.
Oh, really? Oh, word. Oh, the one with the yellow gills.
Yeah, he said saprobic, and then in parentheses, possibly mycorrhizal. This is the only time he actually said that for an Entoloma. All the other ones I checked were saprobic.
Did you?
Yeah, that's the
Hanukkah?
traditional point of view. Now that might change. That might.
You're back to
Hello?
sorry, you're back to Igor's discussion at the beginning with because everybody thinks it has to be true.
Well, no.
Sorry.
Well, of course. That's
There's,
why
there's
I'm
probably
saying that.
evidence, people just wouldn't say they're mycorrhizal or saprobic for, just randomly. I mean, the traditional viewpoint is they're most likely saprobic. There might be exceptions.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There might be exceptions. But this is a little bit, identifying something to species by genetics is a more subtle distinction, I would say, than determining if something is mycorrhizal or saprobic. I think. Although let's like morels, they don't know what to say about morels. So at least some of the species, like Americana, does that one form mycorrhizal associations? I think it probably does, but I think it's still an open question. So that yes, there's reason to wonder.
Yeah, so things like Murray and Quadratum are clearly saprobic.
I think so. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. They grow like in moss. Well, they might be mycorrhizal on moss, though.
well,
That's another thing that's being
Oh.
bantered about, is that some mushrooms might be mycorrhizal on moss.
And some of those moss associates could also be parasitic.
They
on
could be
moss.
parasitic. Like the one that's truly parasitic is Sphagnorum paluster. I mean, you can see where the moss is dying, where those things are growing.
Abortivum.
Yeah, that one's a parasite. At least that's one of the things it does. It might do more than one thing. But yeah, that one parasitizes the mycelium of Armillaria. And for a long time, it was thought that it was the other way around, that it was Armillaria. No, wait, do I have this backwards?
Yeah, no, you
No,
got it.
you're telling the story correctly.
Okay, yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
thought the armillaria attacked the Entoloma, and I think it's now that somebody's shown it's the other way
Yeah,
around.
Tom Volk, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
showed it was the other way around. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Okay,
I do get
so
that mixed up.
on the page, on Michael Coe's page for entolmatoid mushrooms, in the first paragraph, he says, and he has no reference for this, for the statement, but he says, for the most part, they are saprobes that help decompose forest litter, which means that they usually grow on the ground. That's what he says. For the most part, they are saprobes.
Yeah, that's probably where I got it from, from reading that on Mushroom Expert. But, it's this could change for at least some species.
I think that was the last one you had in there.
That was it. Yep. Thanks.
Thank you. Sue sent in one. Is Sue here? No. But these were Gary's proposals? Or to get some proposals, what did she write there? Can you get an ID proposal for this fungi from Gary?
So it's a wood chip thing.
Boy, they've been in the sun, whatever they are.
Yeah, they look kind of dried and shriveled.
Well, that one's pretty nice.
Well, it's got pinkish gills. Maybe it's oh wait. Oh, the gills are attached. So it's not pluteus. Oh, you know what? I think this might be Melanoleuca verrucipes. But the gills wouldn't be pinkish on that species, though. That's the only thing. But see, the scaber type things on the stalk.
Yeah, the scaber things. I thought for a second, I thought maybe these are what is it? The train wrecker, but the gills are not. Don't have serrate edges.
Yeah. I don't think this is.
No.
What is it? Neolentinus.
Neolentinus, or yeah.
Yeah, Neolentinus lepides.
Lepidius, yes.
Lepidius. Yeah. It's not that. These might be Melanoleuca verrucipes. Yeah, but the pinkish spores don't or the pinkish gills don't make sense.
Yeah.
Also, the gill attachment's a little weird for Melanoleuca. I don't think
it's
many of them.
subdecurrent here. Clearly, it's subdecurrent.
Yeah, that's a little bit weird for Melanoleuca. So I don't know
Look
what
at the
these
one
are.
in the upper left, just to see if those are the current. Yeah, they are subdecurrent, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we sure that both photographs picture the same species, or these are two isolated?
Well, both of them have the scaber type ornamentation on the stalk.
I couldn't see.
Well, I think, Igor, are you questioning this photo against
Wait a minute.
this one?
Yeah, whether they're whether these were taken at the same spot or they were two very different pictures of two different collections. Yeah, because I'm looking at this mushroom and
the shiny one looks a little different here.
Yeah, the shiny almost looks like some kind of Entoloma.
That one looks like Entoloma, right? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But the other ones don't look like Entoloma.
No.
Isn't Sue here? Sue sent these in?
Yeah,
right?
Sue sent these from Gary Macus. And Gary's a member of our club. He actually recently unsubscribed from our emails and got to follow up on that because some people do this by mistake.
Oh.
Happened before. He's an old member of the club.
Sue should pass along some better photographs.
Oh. Wow. So what should I tell her? I'll write down something.
They look vaguely familiar, but we cannot really put our finger in it, right?
Yeah, it looked a little bit old and shriveled. So,
Do you think these are saprobes? I think they are.
oh, I think so. Yeah.
Guys, it's been fun, but I gotta go. I'll see you maybe next week.
Bye, Susan.
Thanks.
All right,
Mhm.
Sue.
Good
See you
night,
later.
Susan.
Bye-bye.
Nice, Susan.
You know what? Maybe this is some kind of Neolentinus, different species. At least for this one, this subdecurrent gill attachment bothers me a lot.
Cool.
Well,
I had one thing I'm trying to mess with this week here.
somebody post this on INAT and see what the what AI says about this. It'll be funny to see the proposals.
I've been trying to mess with this thing. And I keep picking leaves off the tree. It's the top of the leaf. This is on an apple. And I keep getting different ones. It's kind of a little like nubby almost at the top. But I know that these rusts, they usually form, they're like the hymenium part on the bottom of the leaf, which there's nothing there. I feel like I keep picking them and they're too early.
Insect gall.
I don't know. They're from a distance they have that real orange look to them. And it's
Zoom on this photo if you can. Hmm.
yeah, I feel like I'm gonna pick every leaf off this tree before I figure it out. It's not that big. But I don't know. I was looking at the stage of the apple cedar rust that goes on the apple trees. But I guess I would need a spore to really figure it out. And I scraped some of this off and I was looking at stuff and there was nothing in there that looked any sort of spore like.
What kind of tree was it? Was it a apple?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I planted it from seed.
Nice. Yeah, if it is indeed that rust, identify it early. Get rid of the. Is it the apples you have to get rid of, or the junipers, the red cedars?
Oh, I think for the apple trees, I mean, it just hurts the tree, slows them down. But then, like, if you wanted to actually do something about it, I think you have to get rid of all the junipers.
Yeah, that's what we did on our property. We had 2 wild juniper trees um, growing that were just loaded with those acorn type things that were going to turn into those stalagmite type things in the spring. And so we figured out what they were, and we just cut the trees down.
Well, I got a juniper in the front of the house that I kind of like, so
Yeah, well,
I
we
don't get
like them
any
too. I
apples.
mean,
It is what it is.
Yeah, it was another type of tree on our property. It was nice to have that juniper on our property. Along with all the other trees that we've identified on our property. But those we had to get rid of because they were really going to compromise our apple trees.
And there's so many junipers in the neighborhood. Even if I got rid of mine, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, you might be right about that. But did you find
Yeah,
the little nodes on
you're
the juniper?
No, not the one in the front of my house. It's only about 4 feet tall. So
Oh,
it's probably one of the other ones in the neighborhood.
yeah.
and yeah, you're correct about that. I mean, I'm here in South Jersey and in out of neighborhoods all day long, and there are so many junipers or red cedars in neighborhoods.
Yeah, they're everywhere. I mean, even in the little the in between the in between parts of the properties, they sprout up like, they're just everywhere. So, I can't, but like I saw the orange spot, I'm like, ooh, it's the other half of this thing. Maybe I can, maybe I can make the connection, but now I can't seem to find one with any uh any of that like hymenium surface at all. So I don't know. There's still a couple leaves with the orange spots. Now I'm trying to like leave them on there and try to look close while I'm out there, so I don't pick this thing bare. That is, I believe, all the emails that came in. Anybody else have anything?
I can follow up with that spore print from last.
Nice.
From the one you were walking on during the session. We lost you, Bianca.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Maybe somebody else should go while I'm.
Well, long story short, what color was it?
It was like a tannish brownish. And I did it with a bunch of others, which were also a different shades of brown. So it's really.
I forget what the mushrooms looked like.
Weren't we talking Lyophyllum or something like that for that thing she found?
Oh, I remember. Yeah, we
It
thought
be what
it
it could be
Lyophyllum.
white or brownish, and it sounds like it was brownish.
Here we go.
Oh no, I don't think we would have said Lyophyllum
Nah,
here.
those aren't Lyophyllum. What
Oh
do the
no.
undersides look like?
Could this be like a mixed collection? I think there are 3 things in here.
Yeah, it could be. Does the one
All of
have
these are different.
an annulus? Does that one in the middle
Yes.
right
Yes, it does
have
have
an
an annulus.
annulus?
That looks like an Agaricus vinosa brunio fumidus to me.
Yeah, that's an Agaricales. Yep, that one's an Agaricales.
The one on the
Almost
bottom, almost like Phylloporus squamosus type deal.
Well, except that I think that stock was part of it.
Right,
that-
exactly. But the cap, yeah, kind of,
Which
the scale
one do you want
suggests
me to
zoom in at
tell you
least.
on?
Oh, I know what this is. It's probably the Matsutake.
It had a ring as well. Hold on. Here's the.
It had a ring.
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
Looks like a Matsutake to me.
Like Tricholoma magna
Magnivelare. Yeah.
Whoa. Do those come out in the
Oh,
spring?
okay.
Well, Nina just found some, but a week or two ago in the
Oh, wow.
in the
I
FPP.
just got a sequence back on a mushroom I picked last year in May. That's Tricholometerium.
Yeah.
It's a slug around it, and it's hard to tell because I think it's been eaten a lot. So
Look at the gills, though. Are those gills coming down this? Or is that the annulus?
No, I think it is gills. I think it's different. 1 second. Get the rest of it. There's that.
So this might be Neolentinus.
Yeah. I would go with that over Tricholoma, right?
That grows in the wood, so in the conifer.
It is conifer, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is Neolentinus.
Yep. That's the train wrecker.
Yeah.
Why is it called that?
Because it grows on railroad ties.
Railroad ties, yeah. Ruins the tracks.
Yeah, before they started saturating them with creosote, they were growing out of them. Allegedly causing train derailments.
Yeah, no way. What?
Wow. Yeah. Hence the name.
I mean,
it must be true then.
Oh, here we go.
Maybe they decayed the wood enough to be an issue, but
Yeah.
Yeah. So the bottom one is the pink, the bitter, bitter bolete. That's with the pink spores. For comparison. Then here is the other ones. They're all kind of versions of tan or brown. Same here.
Yeah, the Agaricales is brown. Neolentinus should be white, I think.
A little bit yellow. White
yellow,
to a little bit yellow, I think. Yeah. I think I would need to check that.
Yeah. Can we go to that photo to see the mushrooms with their caps up, facing upward?
Get to that.
Yeah, I'm guessing that a few of these are probably Agaricales. Although that one with the umbo, that might be an Entoloma.
Yeah, it kind of dried out a little bit. Yeah, this one is, I think, definitely Vinosa fumidus.
Which one was the one that we were looking at during the session last week, Bianca?
I think it's the one with the small one with it. This guy. I put him in the middle on purpose. And his spore print was like a tannish brown.
And it had gills, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these LBMs are tough.
Yeah, that's kind of almost orange, rusty brown.
Yeah,
might be a quart. To make it next to that might be a quart right in the middle there with the widely spaced gills.
Could be.
This one?
Yeah, I think that's a quart.
Kind of early for quartz, but yeah.
Oh, there's one called Cortinarius vernus that I've already found, like 2.5 weeks ago. There's also Cortinarius distans. That one comes out in May.
Yeah, this distance is easy.
That's not distance, but I'm just saying it
Yeah.
comes out early.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've seen Cortinarius cyperatus coming out in May a
Oh,
few
really?
times.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
That's the
We
only court
hardly
that I
ever
know
get
that
those
grows
here.
in the spring. Other ones I haven't seen. That's why I'm just questioning that idea. But anything, I guess, growing with conifers can potentially come out in the spring given the conditions.
Yeah, no, I found a few different kinds of quartz over the years, in pretty early, and it's not real typical, but I've seen it from time to time. Yeah, but there is one called Cortinarius vernus, and that actually doesn't look a whole lot different than this thing. I think.
Yeah, well,
I have one I wanted to ask about that I just found today. Here we go. That's a very large annulus.
that's the same thing.
That's the same as.
Vinosobrunia
Oh,
fumidus, yeah.
cool.
If you have potassium hydroxide solution, it should stay in the cap. Green, kind of a olive green color. Not very bright. Kind of on the dull side. Yep. Smells very nice. Kind of anise chocolate smell. Very complex
Find out.
smell.
Just smells like mushroom to me.
Mm.
Some
Yeah.
tight gills on that thing.
It's one of
Yeah,
my
it's still very young.
least favorite names. What is it? Vinicio.
Vinosobrunia fumidus.
Three different things that mean the same thing.
What does it mean?
It's a
Smoky
it's a
brown.
smoky brown.
How helpful.
Smoky
Very nice.
vinaceous brown. Yeah, yeah.
I hate that name, but
I
yeah.
love that name because it's so easy to remember.
And I have one other one that I'm not sure what it is either. There's this guy. It looks pretty much the same. It is all the way around. So this is the spore surface. And this is the other side. Yeah, so it looks like creatures have bored into it. The holes on this right side.
Looks like it's perennial.
Yeah, it's some kind of polypore button.
No,
Yeah.
it's large. It's large.
Well, still a button, large button.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah,
New
it's not
growth.
expanded. It's a slow growing, like Igor said, probably a perennial fruit body.
Could be some kind of Ganoderma. Who knows?
Oh, okay. All right.
Do you have a close up of the pores?
It was getting dark, so I don't think it came out very well. Pores. Yeah, it didn't come out very well.
So the pores are tiny.
Yeah.
And essentially the same color as the cap.
I mean, I have it. Do you want me to? I wonder if I can share based on video.
And this is also growing in a conifer?
No, doesn't look like conifer bark. Hold on, let me see if I can do this camera. Oh yeah, okay. Let's try this. Can you see this?
Yeah, we can see this.
All right, let's see if I can bring it under the. I'm gonna change the camera here. I don't know. This one. Okay, that's better. All right, so I'm putting it under a bright light so that it can be better seen. That's the pore surface.
Mm-hmm.
The top.
Wow.
Megacollybia.
And that's the bark. That helps any.
How
Looks a little
hard
like
is
birch bark.
It doesn't seem like birch. I mean, it's unless
No?
it's like yellow birch. I'm not familiar with that very
Oh,
well.
okay. Yeah. Well, that's the kind of birch I usually see is yellow birch. But yeah, down where you are, there's probably not a lot of yellow birch. So it's probably something else.
Yeah, it's almost like this cushion shaped on both sides.
Yeah, but
I know, looks weird with some insect holes in it.
Is it really hard, like rock hard?
Yeah, it's super
Yes.
hard, right?
Yes, it's really hard.
So if you try to cut it with a knife, you're gonna break the blade, huh?
It feels like a stiff potato.
So
cut it,
on
I'll cut it.
hemlock around here, we have a whole lot of this thing called Phamatopsis ocratia. But Michael Quebec says that that species grows on hardwood, so it might be something that is colonizing a variety of different kind of trees. So that's the thing that starts out as really rock hard buttons that are not totally dissimilar from this thing.
Oh, it's cutting through actually.
Oh, well, then it's not Phamatopsis ocratia because that one will break your knife.
No, I got it. I was able to cut through it.
Oh.
Okay.
Am I the only one that the video paused?
Yeah, no, I paused it because I'm cutting it. It's not.
I was gonna say. Oh, there
I
you
was
go.
able to cut it in half. So this is again the spore surface, and this is the top, and that's what we got. Let me go under the bright light again.
So how did you cut it? Longitudinally or?
I cut it through both surfaces. So
Okay,
again,
so
so this is
perpendicular to the ground. Okay.
yeah. So this is how it would be on spore surface top. And there's the cut.
Wow.
Pretty dense. Again,
Phyllinus?
like a tough potato.
Yeah,
Maybe a species of Phyllinus.
Yeah, there's some structure to it. A little bit zonate.
Yeah, Dave, could be. I mean, could be a bunch of other things, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, could be a bunch of other things.
I put into the chat, I dropped off for a second, but I put into the chat just the family Hymenochaetaceae.
Okay.
I think that houses a lot of things.
Yeah, that looks like somewhat of a challenge.
Okay.
But we know it's
So be it.
perennial, which is an important detail.
Yeah.
That's cool. Thanks.
Sure. Thanks. Sorry I stumped you. Oh wait, here's the other side. That might be helpful too. All right, so this is still attached to the bark.
Yeah,
My
I can
thumb is on
actually
this.
figure out from where from this where the spore surface is, and that's why I said the way you cut it's important.
Yeah, pore surface is where my thumb is. And
Yeah.
the top is finger.
Yeah, and you can see that the annular growth, it has those rings.
Yeah, it is. It's zonate clearly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay. Thanks.
Luke is not here, so.
Phyllinus is not a bad ID.
No, it's not.
The thing I put in the chat, the family that houses Phyllinus, and I don't think it houses foamies, but some of those foamies adjacent type things. So
Yeah, so we have to draw up a rule. If in doubt, call it Phyllinus.
yeah.
I'm going to try to get spores out of it. We'll see if I get a spore print. I doubt it, but who knows?
And taste too. Is it bitter?
Mm.
Is it mild?
It's.
If you have KOH,
I don't. Sorry.
because a drop of KOH on the flesh is sometimes useful with these things.
The
These type
texture is
things.
very very cork-like, but it doesn't have much taste at all.